The first time Luke Harrow paid $3 for help, it wasn't because he thought that was all a person was worth. It was because $3 was all he had left in his pocket, and pride had already cost him more than he could afford. The wind moved low across the Wyoming plains that morning, bending the grass like it was whispering secrets to the earth. Luke stood on the porch of his weather-beaten ranch house, one hand braced against the doorframe, watching his two children argue over a tin cup in the dirt. Their voices were thin with hunger, though neither of them complained the way children were supposed to. They had learned too early how silence worked in a house where grief lived. Luke's wife, Mary, had been gone for 2 winters now. Fever took her fast, cruel and sudden, leaving behind a quiet that never quite lifted. Since then, Luke had done everything himself, ranching, cooking, washing, raising 2 children who still woke in the night calling for their mother. He was a strong man, broad-shouldered and capable, but grief had hollowed him out in places strength couldn't reach. The ranch was slipping, fences sagged, cattle wandered, bills stacked up like judgment on the kitchen table. That was why, when he saw the woman walking along the dirt road with a small bundle slung over her shoulder, he felt something like desperation nudge him forward. She didn't look like much at first glance. Thin coat, dusty boots, hair pulled back in a simple braid that swung against her back. She walked with her head slightly bowed, like she was used to not being seen. Luke cleared his throat and called out, his voice rough from disuse. "Ma'am," he said, "you looking for work?" She stopped slowly, as if sudden movements might scare the world into turning on her. When she turned, Luke noticed her eyes first, calm, steady, and older than the rest of her. "Not tired exactly, watchful. What kind of work?" she asked. "Just help," Luke said, gesturing toward the house, the children, the endless land beyond, cooking, keeping an eye on the kids while I'm out. "Ain't much." She considered him for a moment. "How much?" Luke swallowed. $3, he said honestly, for the week. Food and a place to sleep too. The woman didn't laugh, she didn't scoff, she simply nodded. "I can do that." Her name was Annabelle. She didn't offer any more than that, and Luke didn't ask. People passed through these lands for all kinds of reasons, and some stories were better left untouched. He showed her the small room off the kitchen that had once been Mary's sewing space. Anna set her bundle down neatly and rolled up her sleeves without being told. From the first day, the house changed. Anna moved quietly, but not timidly. She cooked simple meals that somehow tasted like care. She spoke gently to the children, who was 7 and stubborn, and Clara, 5 years old with eyes too big for her face. She never raised her voice, never forced affection, but somehow the children drifted toward her like plants toward the sun. Luke noticed other things too, the way she mended a torn shirt with expert hands, the way she woke before dawn without complaint, the way she sometimes paused at the window, staring out at the fields like she was measuring something only she could see. One evening, after the children had fallen asleep, Luke found Anna sitting at the table, a ledger open in front of her. She was studying numbers, lips moving silently. "You can read?" Luke asked, surprised. Anna looked up. "Yes, most folks around here can't," my father insisted. She said simply, closing the book, "You're losing money on that east pasture, fence lines broken, cattle wandering." Luke stiffened. "I know. You don't have time," she said gently. "You're doing too much alone." The words landed heavier than she intended. Luke looked away, jaw tight. "That's how it is." Anna watched him for a long moment. "You don't have to tell me," she said, "but I already know." Luke turned back sharply. "Know what?" She met his gaze without fear. "That you loved your wife deeply, that her death wasn't something you got over, it's something you carry, and that you're afraid if you stop moving, the weight will crush you." Silence filled the room, thick and dangerous. Luke's hand clenched into a fist. "You don't know me," he said. "No," Anna agreed, "but I know grief." That night, Luke didn't sleep much. He lay awake staring at the ceiling, listening to the wind, thinking about how a stranger could see so much without ever asking a single question. Days turned into weeks. The ranch began to stabilize. Anna helped the children with letters and numbers at the table. She coaxed laughter from them in quiet ways. Stories whispered, games made from nothing. Clara started sleeping through the night. Illy began talking about the future again, about riding horses and being just like Pa. Luke felt something unfamiliar growing in his chest. Not hope, not yet. Something gentler, like relief, but secrets have a way of demanding attention. One afternoon, Luke came back early from the fields and found Anna standing behind the barn, her coat pulled open slightly. She was binding her ribs with practiced precision, teeth clenched against pain. For a moment, neither of them spoke. What happened? Luke asked. Anna froze, then slowly lowered her arms. Nothing. That's not nothing, he said quietly. She exhaled, shoulders sagging. Old injury. Luke didn't press, but later that night he found an old newspaper tucked into the bottom of her bundle. A faded headline caught his eye. Local woman sought in connection with mill fire disaster. The sketch was crude, but unmistakable. Anna's eyes stared back at him from the page. Luke sat heavily in the chair, heart pounding. The mill fire had killed 3 men. The town had been hungry for someone to blame. The next morning, Luke handed the paper to Anna without a word. She looked at it for a long time, then she nodded. I was there, she said. I didn't start it, but I knew who did. Why didn't you say anything? Because the man who did it owned the mill, she said. Because he said he'd see my family ruined if I spoke. Because when the fire spread, it was easier for them to blame a woman who knew too much. Luke absorbed this in silence. You running? I was, Anna said. Not anymore. You know they'll come, Luke said. Yes. Luke looked toward the house where his children slept safely, unaware of the danger brushing so close to their lives. He thought of Mary, of promises made at gravesides, of what kind of man he wanted his children to remember. You can stay, he said finally. Anna's eyes filled, but she didn't cry. Why? Because sometimes, Luke said, doing the right thing costs more than $3. When the men came, they came hard and loud, dust rising beneath their horses. Luke stood on the porch, rifle in hand, children hidden inside. Anna stood beside him, unflinching. The truth came out slowly, painfully, but it came. Witnesses spoke, lies unraveled. The mill owner was arrested before winter set in. When it was over, Anna tried to leave. Luke stopped her at the gate. You don't have to. She hesitated. I was paid to help. Luke reached into his pocket and pulled out 3 worn dollars. He pressed them into her hand. Then consider this your wages. Anna smiled, soft and real. I think, she said, I was helping myself too. Years later, people would say the Harrow Ranch survived because of hard work and luck. But Luke knew better. It survived because one quiet stranger knew his secret before he ever said it out loud. That love doesn't end when someone dies. Sometimes it just waits for the courage to begin again.